All right, folks, I'm here with Jim Peterson of Lumagen. Really excited to see you here this year.
Well, we're excited to be here with a great group. Apparently, we won the best of show. I think.
Oh, congratulations.
Well, so that was great. And so we're showing our top-end 5000 series. And some of the things that we're showing off is its ability to do the dynamic tone mapping. It actually now can control the CMOS masking screens directly.
Which we saw happening in there.
Yes, and then we have, of course, scaling and all the other features. One of the features I like to talk about is the Genlock. The Genlock is not well known. It basically makes sure that the input to the output delay in the video processor is consistent to get the absolute best lip sync in it, but it also ensures that you get, for every input frame, it comes out exactly once. And so that is one of the reasons that we're getting used in studios. It's being used for post-production quality check in a major studio for movies that you've seen. I can't mention the studio's name. There's a sound editor who basically uses it because of the Genlock, and the sources have different timings, and so he can actually adjust with that video delay in the Lumagen and the Genlock, and he can get essentially as perfect lip sync as is possible.
So without that feature, lip sync becomes an issue.
It does, especially, it depends, at 24 hertz, you've got 43 milliseconds of variation if you don't have true Genlock. But also the projectors have their own variation, so that you're adding the sum of those, and so we want our variation to be 0. And so whatever you get in the projector, however good the projector is, you're gonna have optimal lip sync with Genlock.
Very cool. And this is a model that has been out for a while.
About 3 years, yes.
About 3 years.
Yes.
One of the things that I like about your product is it's something that can be upgraded. As technology improves, as it does, you know, a lot of people are left with equipment that becomes, you know, dead basically, and they have to go out and buy something new. You guys play the game a little differently.
Yeah, so when we started selling this in 2015, 9 years ago, I had chosen an FPGA that had half of its available logic available for us to do features. Like dynamic tone mapping, it did not exist in 2015. So our model is, video processors are a small niche, and our model is free updates. So all the people who bought the Lumagen 9 years ago have all the features. So it's a living product. It's brand new to the point where you put a new release on it. The FPGA is new hardware. Inside that chip is new hardware, so we can reprogram it. So we had a modular design, so for 4K we could go from 9 gigahertz to 18 gigahertz, but also we could have 2, 4, 6, 8, or even 10 inputs on the product. So it's the hub, and the reason we want to do the switching in the 5000 series is it has very, very low jitter, measured typically around 10 picoseconds for the clock, which is very low.
Sure.
And sending that low jitter clock to the audio processor gives you better audio because it gives the phase lock loops that also do more deep jitter in the audio processor a really good starting point. And the lower the jitter at the DACs, the lower the distortion to your ears.
You're going to have a better sound all the way around.
So we have a lot of people saying, I'm actually underselling how much audio improvement, because I said, oh yeah, you'll hear a little bit, but the first time I heard it, basically from the source, through that, my jaw dropped. I just said,
wait a second, what's happening here?
Yeah, I knew there'd be a little bit, but we were improving the jitter so much, the electrical noise. I think I even said in a little interview, he put it on a HMI tester for 48 hours with 0-bit errors because of the low jitter.
That's really cool. I mean, there's so many benefits to your product. That's one of them. Like we were just talking about, I also love the fact that you can buy in and you're not cut out in a couple years. It's great for the earth, but also great for the wallet. I mean, there's a lot of benefits, and you guys fit right in with, Storm Audio, Trenov. They also are built in a similar way to be upgradable, modular. So that's really exciting. But you guys have some news that has dropped in the last, I'd say like 3 weeks or so?
Right, absolutely.
2 new products.
Within the past week. So we introduced a new product. I kept getting, especially in Europe, people are saying, the minimum you have is 2 inputs and 2 outputs. I only need 1 input and 1 output. How come I'm paying for 2 inputs? So what we've done is we've introduced the 4140 compact. It's in a compact case. And what that is we take our 4242 main board, and then we just have 1 input and 1 output, so that we can drop the price to $54.95 US in the USA, and then of course prices vary internationally, but So we have products in about $500 increments from $54.95 to $94.95, and it really comes down to two things. One is number of inputs and outputs, or the quality of the electrical signal. The 4000 has a very good low jitter, but the 5000 series is ultra low jitter, ultra low noise, because I designed the 5000 has over 30 linear power supplies to isolate all the various digital power supplies. They're over 30.
Over 30?
Yeah, I don't know, I don't remember the exact count, I just know it's more than 30.
Okay, I mean, that's a really interesting fact.
So that's basically using analog design techniques to make the digital signals better. We also use microwave capacitors exclusively. They're about 100 times more expensive than a regular capacitor that people use for their design, but they're 18 gigahertz capacitors. So that is what you really need. Most capacitors drop out at about a gigahertz. So these capacitors are there for the very high speed HDMI signals.
Very cool. So really with the new model, you're not losing a whole lot. It's basically just the extra functionality of the extra input that you're taking out.
Correct.
And then jitter changes a little, but you're saying it's probably not noticeable.
Yeah, so basically, the lower jitter, the best thing for that is audio, because we're really sending that. There's a slight improvement for video, some people say, some people, it's really, I tell people you have to look, you decide. People tell me, and we actually put some testimonials on our front page, so people can actually say, I tried this, the sound is better, but also the video is better. So, but for, the budget is getting up to $8,500 to $9,500. For $54.95, you're getting all the processing, all the Verilog code in the FPGA, that's the hardware, and all the software is identical. It's just one input and one output instead of up to 8 inputs on the 4000 series and up to 4 outputs. So our model is inputs and outputs, and then we have that high end for the audio file.
Okay, so the price point is coming down to an area where a lot more people will have access to this product, and they may have never considered it before. So for a new buyer out there, in terms of getting it out of the box and setting it up on your own, how far can, a relatively, let's say, someone that has some decent knowledge of home theater, audio, video, what can they get out of the box without bringing a calibrator in versus bringing a calibrator in? Okay,
well, a lot of the projectors like JVCs and Sonys and the big barcodes and stuff, it's not like 10 years ago where they absolutely needed to be calibrated. They're coming out of the box pretty close enough for a lot of people to be happy, not as good as it could be. So we have calibration to make it even better. But we have also a set of slide set that I did that I have people who have no experience in video who have gone through that, and they said, okay, with that it was easy. Or they might have a question, well, what about this or that? So we are all about support. If you talk to people, look at our testimonials on our webpage, we are all about support. If you need it, we're there. But the setup slide set, especially for the one in, one out, you have just one input to select. You need to set up your aspect ratio, your resolution, and a few things like that. It's a plug and play, but we like to actually use manual EDAs. I don't know if people understand the EDAs, but we tell you how to set that up. So we have people setting up in 20, 30 minutes with no experience.
And getting a big benefit right off of that, right out of the box.
Right out of the box.
Yeah.
And then you can adjust, there's just a couple of adjustments they need to make to say, well, how bright is my projector? Or how bright is my LED wall? Or how bright is my television?
Okay, awesome. That's really good news, because then once you get that first level of experience, you can bring a calibrator in and really tune things up and tighten it up.
Yes, with calibration, you're going to get then the reference quality for color. So color is really good out of the box, but it can be made better if you bring in a professional calibrator. So we have dealers who do that, they'll sell it to it, they actually travel around and they'll do calibration for people. But even without that, you're going to get a big improvement. Okay.
Now, that's kind of your now entry level, I guess you could say, product. You also had a second announcement of something that is going to excite some hardcore home theater enthusiasts out there, the Artisan.
Yeah, so we decided that it was a good time to pre-announce that. We were getting people speculating. So we thought, let's just talk about it so they know, and then we can start talking about it. So it's an 8K in, 8K out box, brand new design. It's very similar. We have 8K chips instead of 4K chips. we have a much larger FPGA. So that one of our critical resources, we have 6 times as many of those, multiply, accumulate, getting too technical, but you get a lot more horsepower there for us to do and go to the next generation. 4K 120, I'm a big advocate for gamers. Ultra low latency, our game mode with Genlock on is 3 milliseconds, and that will stay about 3 milliseconds. So gamers can actually use our product because it doesn't have long delay. If other products can have much longer delay, and you can't use them for gaming.
Okay.
And so it'll still have the Genlock, but it'll have more precision than what we have. It'll have, 444 pipeline instead of 422, which is really about gaming, not about video. Video content is 420. Our current pipeline is 422. That's perfect. At the end, if you want it to be 444, we can convert it on the way out. But as long as you're stepping up in resolution, we don't need a 444 pipeline for video, but for gaming, for PCs, use like that, then the 444 pipeline will be a step up.
8K. It's crazy how far things have gotten. Are the HDMI inputs, are they 40 gig or are they 48?
We're actually not really talking about that, but let me just, it's going to be 40 gig, 8K, and I believe that's 8K 60 at 10 bits, but it's 12 bits at 8K 24, which is the movies.
And that's not uncommon. Almost every product out there saying HDMI 2.1 or 4K, 8K compatible are 40 gig right now.
That gives you full 8K 60 and 10 bits. Not just 8 bits. So the HDR stuff is 10 bits. The other thing that we can say is 8 bits dithered on our output. In my testing, I can't see any content that looks any different between the 8 and 12 bit output, between our 9 gigahertz 4K 60 HDR output and our 18 gigahertz 12 bit 4K 60 HDR content. I couldn't see any scenes that look, I could tell, standing 2 feet away from my 12-foot screen, and anyone who knows me is that's not how you evaluate video. You have to be evaluating from your seat, because you don't care what it looks like. Things look different. It's like paper, newspapers. They look different if you get close. You see all the dots, but if you hold it away, you see the picture the way it's supposed to be. There's other optical illusions. You cannot do proper evaluation, and that's why we are always winning all of the runoffs. If you do head-to-head at viewing distance, we've spent 20 years optimizing our scaling for in-motion video from a real video source that has the appropriate amount of bandwidth, because the video's going through the compression algorithm. I'll mention DCTs, discrete cosine trans. They go to the frequency domain, and then they start throwing out high frequencies. So we have optimized our scaling knowing the algorithms that the compression is going through, so we don't want to try to process frequencies beyond what we're going to see. We optimize so that if you try to optimize that, back in the day it was zone plates, 2002, 3, 4, but I quickly determined that if I optimize for that, it makes the actual video look worse. And so we have to optimize in the seat. I often sit halfway just so I can get a little bit more, but in the seat, consumers should say, I'm sitting in my seat, watching the content on the projector that I want, with the screen that I want. That's how they should evaluate video.
Sure, yeah.
And they can do A to B, show this one, show that one. And we always love that, because we do so well when people actually look at it.
With the Lumagen, you can turn on and off the processing fairly?
You can set up the Lumagen. If you get 4K in and 4K out, depending on how you've set it up.
I see what you mean. Gotcha. So you can switch at the display level. You can change.
Yeah. So what I recommend is you wouldn't. People ask us to do a pass through. Why would you trust me that I'm passing it through? So if you want to do that, A to B, you take a splitter from the source to the Lumagen, out Lumagen to one input on the projector, and then directly from the splitter to the projector. Then you know you're getting before and after.
Right. Fantastic. Okay, so with Artisan, what is the pricing, and when can we expect that to drop?
So the Artisan, our pricing target is $12,995.
Okay.
Basically it's 4 times the horsepower, so it's going to cost a little bit more. We're saying 2025, and that's all we're saying because we still have a lot of work to do.
Okay.
And we'll know more, and as we know more, we'll disclose more about when that might be. But 2025 is our target.
Fantastic. Well, I hope once it launches, you'll join us on a live stream so we can talk more in depth about all the features that actually ended up making it into the final product. I'm sure there will be some tweaks and
Yes.
all kinds of fun stuff happening there.
Yes.
But Jim, congratulations on 2 really interesting products landing, and I know you have a lot of fans out there, and a lot of people are really excited about this.
Well, we do love our group. We have customers who help us by saying, reporting, I saw this thing, I just want you to know. And then Patrick is basically, I almost call him a bulldog. Once he gets his hold of a bug, he fixes it. Yep. And a lot of the bug fixes we have, people don't realize, are bug fixes for other products. Because they haven't done things quite right in HDMI, we have to then work around it because we're the little guy and we're the guy in the middle.
Right.
We're always the guy who gets blamed.
You're going to get blamed. I was going to say, yeah, it's easier just to say, hey, it's their fault.
Right. So, and it you know, we're not perfect, but almost all the time it's not the Lumagen, and we can go in and we can do things like we had cases where you couldn't delay a certain feature in HDMI command longer than a certain amount. Some products wouldn't work. Not in the spec, not supposed to be required, but it was there. So we had to walk the tightrope and make sure all the products work. And we actually have people saying things work better with a Lumagen than without.
Yeah.
But also it's an extra piece of gear. So HDMI cables, I preach that all the time. 3 meters, optimal for cable attenuation. I say for passive 48 gigahertz, I now just say any 48 gigahertz cable is going to work at 18. Buy a 48 gig, 3 meter passives, and then for fiber cables, I recommend the Tributaries Vega. AV Pro has the Bullet Train. 18 gigahertz.
AV Pro. I mean, you can't go wrong with them.
Yep, absolutely. And then for fibers, if you have an 18 gigahertz system, buy an 18 gigahertz fiber. If you want future, then buy one of the 18 and one of the 48 for it later, because the 48 gigahertz active actually speed up the edge rates. And on my phone calls, it's always the edge rate that tends to be the thing. In transmission line theory, sorry, another technical, the faster the edge rate, the harder it is for the projector or the audio processor to grab a hold of the signal.
Some good information for you out there. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Awesome. Well, listen, I'm going to let you get back to the show, and I have somewhere else I have to run off to. It's going to be one of those days.
Okay,
but thanks for spending some time with me this morning. Really enjoyed the demo.
Great.
Looks spectacular. And folks out there, like, share, subscribe this video, and also come hang out with us at the Home Theater Forum, avnirvana.com.